Well, uh, so excited today to have an opportunity to speak with Richard Elliott from 88 Films. And Richard, before I get into why specifically, I just want to say thank you so much for making time for me.
Hi, Chris. No problem at all. Good to talk to you.
Wonderful. Well, so back in this story with 88 Films starts for me all the way back in 2001. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I was at a film festival in Dallas where I was going to university, and it was an Asian film festival, and they put on this little film from 1991 called The Story of Ricky. And I left the theater just, I had no idea what I just saw, and all I could know was that I loved it unbelievably. And I picked up this old Tokyo Shock DVD that I actually still have. We're not on video. I'm holding it right now, just assuming that this was the only chance I'd ever have to own this on disc. um, and lo and behold, about 2 years ago now, maybe a year to 2 years ago, you have to correct me on the exact date, but all of a sudden I hear there's a 2 or 3 disc hard slipcase edition of Rikki-O coming out. And I said, okay, I'm going to support 88 Films. Now, I love these guys. Um, so thank you so much for putting this out.
No problem. Was that the first disc of ours that you were aware of? Is it?
So yeah, I live here in the U.S. and and I know now you have a U.S. line, and I'm current up to number 11, so I'd certainly want to get into that. But at the time, yeah, this is how I discovered 88 Films.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, brilliant. I mean, that was probably like our 300th release or something. Yeah, we've been going a while. Well, that's great. I mean, it's a yeah, that came together really well. I mean, I think everything, the cover art, the booklets and the extras and bits and pieces, we did some regrading on it, got some really good quality soundtracks and stuff. So yeah, that came together really well. I'm very proud of it, and it did sell pretty well as well. So yeah, that's what that's always a
Well,
bonus.
yeah, I'm so that was one of my questions. I'm so happy to hear that. So, and I want to even ask a little bit about category 3, but before I get into all of that, let's go back because you made a comment that I'm super interested in. So you said about your 300th release. So 88 Films, just as a company, super fascinating to me. Y'all have been around since 2012, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, our first release was March 2012. It was a full moon license. Our original deal was with Full Moon Charlie Band, and yeah, Pet and the Pendulum, and that's it. Yeah, we've been not looked back really. It's been yeah, I can't believe it's still going really. And where the time's gone, but yeah, it's been great.
Well, you're covering, your history covers a lot of my favorites. So I know people in general have kind of a mixed working relationship with Charles Band nowadays, um, but his content and his titles are always popular, and I know they sell well. You put out a lot of trauma films in your history, which is a soft spot for me. I love Trauma's work. Um,
We actually started well. Originally, our first deal was with Chroma, and it just sort of kind of fell through right before the Full Moon thing. Could fairly differently, to be honest, but yeah, but we did obviously go back to them. But I mean, you say about Charlie, I've never had an issue with him at all. I know he's got a reputation, but I mean, I couldn't, he's the nicest guy. Treated us brilliantly, and we had a good working relationship. For the period that we were kind of in partnership and releasing his titles. So he's a great guy. It's fantastic.
oh, that's so nice to hear. Okay, great. Um, and what was, what can you go back kind of to the beginning and just what were you doing right before 88 Films, and what made you kick it off? I guess that's a fascinating kind of way to get going.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two of us basically, myself and my business partner James,
Yeah.
and we met both working at another label. And we got on pretty well, very well together, sort of straight away, and sort of spent most lunchtime together, just going coffee, having a chat, whatever about football or whatever. Um,
Uh-huh.
And then, after a while, we kind of thought it would be quite nice to, we're both a bit sort of itchy feet at where we're working. And we thought it'd be kind of good to maybe have a go at setting something up, the two of us. And our initial idea was wedding videos. We're going to do that. So we thought, because we can shoot and edit and all that sort of stuff, and it was kind of using that kind of skill. So we did a bit of research, have a website, went to a wedding fair, thought this is interesting, we could do this. And then obviously we hadn't put much thought into it because we kind of realized pretty quickly that anybody booking a wedding video is going to be booking a year, 2 years ahead. Oh, okay. So we have to wait before we can make any money off it. So, you know what I mean? So, yeah, got that on pretty quickly. And then, yeah, what else can we do? What we were doing at the time. So, and I won't mention the label we're working at, but we made a conscious effort to do nothing like what they were doing at all.
Okay.
All totally with different distributors, different sales agencies, totally different genres of films and stuff like that. And got it kind of set up and left as quickly as we could, kind of thing, really. So yeah, it was, that was it.
That's great. And I read an interview all the way back in 2014 by I think a Belgian publication or something. We were talking a little bit about before. It's difficult to find interviews with y'all. Another reason I'm so happy you're here. But you had mentioned at that time that you were avid VHS collectors. Is that something that you still do?
I mean, well, yeah, we've got quite a few shelves of VHSs over here. Kind of odd. I mean, a lot of them are stuff that we could maybe kind of related to what we were doing in terms of releases and stuff, but yeah, still quite a few. Unfortunately, every time we buy a player, it seems to go wrong within about 2 minutes. So I don't watch any of them anymore. But yeah, I've got quite a few.
Well, certainly you're buying them used at this point, right? And so you never know how the players have been treated.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a couple of times, and we just think, well, just look at them on the
shelf. So I guess beyond VHS, then, would you say that you're just a collector of physical media in general, outside of what you're doing at 88 Films?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, not to the extent of a lot of our customers. My goodness, some of those shelves are pretty impressive. When they sort of send pictures and stuff over to us, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I was saying to you earlier, I picked up a load of 4Ks yesterday when went into HMV and bought some stuff that I wanted. Have a look around at the competition, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm still. I mean, quite an extensive iTunes library as well. But no, I definitely love the physical stuff. Yeah, and probably got too many again.
Well, this is the constant struggle, right? Because there's only so much you can put on shelves, but there's a lot more that you want to have. I've already had to do one purge this past Christmas because we just, we don't have a mansion. So I'm like, okay, here we go. I have to get rid of some of the stuff I love. It does. In fact, I have it in a separate closet, just in my to give away or sell pile. And I've been very slow to do it, much to the frustration of my family. So that's coming soon. Okay, so going back, started with Full Moon and Trauma, and I think one of the things that I've been fascinated with in just the last 2 years, you can say, as I've kind of gotten to know you, is there's quite a wide diversity in the titles you put out, especially if we're talking about Region B. Just for a moment before we get into your US line. The best I could kind of think of it, I'm curious if this is right, for every Anaconda and Species box set that's released, I'm hoping that those sell incredibly well for you. And the way that I kind of view it is, although those movies are super fun and worth a good release, and I own them both, by the way. But for every one of those, it allows you to put out Beatrice Sensi or On the Run in a Slipcase or Shaolin Wooden Men. Like I kind of view it as there's the films that you put out that you have a high confidence will be extremely commercially viable, which then allows you to put out kind of passion projects. Am I right, or am I way off?
Um, well, no, yeah. I mean, that's. I guess that's. I don't necessarily think of it like that. I suppose. We generally, in a very fortunate position now where we can take more of a risk on a title that perhaps won't be quite so commercial, but we'd still love to do anyway. But I don't necessarily think, well, we've got this title, so I need to get something to pay for it, kind of thing. But yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
obviously, but yeah, I mean, I just between James and I, we enjoy a wide variety of genres and films from different decades and all that sort of stuff. And you know, I'd like I see the absurdity in releasing a box set of a decent first film followed up by its kind of DTV kind of titles. I mean, we've done that several times. And that tickles me, to be honest. The Legend, I know we did last summer, Anaconda, that kind of Hollow Man
Yeah, yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love the first films, and I kind of enjoy the follow-ups in a different way. And we just try and package them as nice as we possibly can do. Um, yeah,
I will, to your point, I will say I was going into Anaconda 3 super skeptical, and I kind of had a fun time with it.
that's it. As long as if you sit there and say, well, I want to watch an Anaconda film that's exactly the same as the first one, but done on a tenth of the budget, it's not going to happen, is it? But to view it for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's well worth that kind of. I mean, we're trying to get more together, to be honest, of those kind of collections. I think they're kind of interesting. So,
Oh, well, that's exciting to hear. I mean, this is, the kind of interesting thing where we're in right now, where I think, it feels like to me, and you tell me if I'm off here, but it feels like if I was going to be in charge of a boutique label, the temptation is to put out a lot of movies. I think you all cover, at least in what I own from you, a lot of stuff from, let's say, the 70s to the 90s seems to be your kind of sweet spot.
yeah.
But there's in the case of Species or Anaconda, and like I know what you did last summer, and some of these there's films that were maybe put out in the later 90s, early 2000s that are essentially going to be lost because maybe there's not a huge demand for Anaconda's Trail of Blood by itself, but there's an opportunity to put it out as, like you said, in this kind of box set and at least keep it and preserve it that way.
Yeah, I think so.
That's great. Yeah, no, I'm just looking at now at Species. I'm about to start the Species series from y'all, so I'm just looking at Species: The Awakening, and maybe there's another one kind of like that. That it's fun that it's in this box set, just because it may not have as big of an audience as the first Species, but it's going to be a fun watch, I know.
Yeah, and I think it's the way to do it. I mean, um, we did American Ninja as a series years ago, and we didn't know what we were doing at the time. We did a kind of like a really cheap set of them all in one case, and then we did them all individually, and then we did like them individually with a box set from our website and stuff, and it just it almost went a bit wrong with it. Nobody wanted to buy 3 and 4 individually. Um, so yeah, but this is the way to do it, I think. And yeah, that's how we would have done it with a bit more experience back in the day. But
Well, well, I hope they continue to be wildly successful for you. That you brought up an interesting point in what you just said about packaging. So I think that y'all are quietly, and maybe quietly is not the right word, because people talk a lot about packaging, and I just think that y'all have really hit a sweet spot in your packaging. I love the hard slipcases you're putting out, the booklets that you're creating, the full-size posters, the features. It just seems that y'all have really kind of hit your groove, and the releases that are coming out for On the Run or Robotrix or Hatchet for the Honeymoon or Black Cat. I mean, these releases are the Young Master, like, fantastic releases. How did what can you walk through the process of how you kind of landed on the slipcase and just how you decided to put out these masterful editions?
very kind words, thank you. we did, yeah. We did literally sit down and say, and we had a couple of turbulent years, sort of 2018, 2019, with distribution and bits and pieces. And I think X-Men HMV went bust for like the third time or something, and
Uh-huh.
stuff. And we did literally sit down and say, what can we do to sort of improve the business and give it on longevity and all that sort of stuff. And and we were selling. I mean, we were selling stuff so cheaply through this agent we had. We were selling tons of stuff, but making no money whatsoever.
Okay.
And it was just like, well, we need to, we need to sort of improve basically on all elements. We need to sort of take control of them. I mean, because up to that point, barring a couple of crowd funds, most masters we were releasing were just kind of supplied, and we maybe did a bit of dust busting or a little bit of tweaking the grade or whatever, but they were, essentially they weren't our masters.
Okay.
So we sort of said, well, we need to make a conscious effort to just sort of have more control, really, and to improve, the quality and looking around at what other labels were doing and trying the best to match that. I mean, it's hard. It is just the two of us. We work with a load of brilliant kind of freelance people, but and it definitely has, has been, given me a few more grey hairs, that's for sure, over the last few years. But it was a deliberate thing. We wanted to get the masters looking as good as possible, sound, subtitles, all that sort of stuff, and spend more on packaging, basically, make them more desirable, try and sell out the first print quicker, before it goes into discount kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's been our strategy, and we just trying to work with brilliant artists and good writers, and and just do what we can to make them how we'd want them to be, basically. Just try and take us out of the business, tempt us to buy it. That's the idea. So, yeah.
That it's working. Kind of as a follow-on to that, do you remember the first time you heard either a Frank Jang or Mike Leader and Arna commentary? Do you remember, just were you like, oh wow, we've got it, like this is great stuff?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were dealing with Mike and Arnie first. Frank came on a bit later, but yeah, they've been really good. I mean, we don't work with Mike anymore, but yeah, they're good guys, especially Frank. I mean, Frank, we're working with continuously. he's got a very long list of stuff to do for us. But
well, they're just both. I mean, I guess we both of them, I think, in their own ways, are just so entertaining and just know so much casually just about the films that they're speaking on. So it's I always love putting on one of their commentaries. Are you? I'm trying to remember the name. Is it Constellation, or there's a company that distributes a lot of these Shaw Brothers films? Is it because you're not dealing directly with Shaw Brothers Studios, right? It's like is it
Celestial? Yeah, well, no, they have
Celestial.
Yeah,
Celestial.
they own a good. I can't remember exactly. I think it's all of them, pretty much, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, Celestial's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, so that I noticed that at least in the U.S., maybe this is a natural point to switch to the U.S., because I noticed, other than number one, which I do want to talk about shortly, because I just saw Gestapo's Last Orgy, and what a wild movie. But other than that, I believe 2 through 11 are all Shaw Brothers films, right? And so is your US line going to be primarily those releases, primarily Shaw Brothers? Or, yeah, I'm just curious about that, because I am absolutely loving them so far. I was just curious if that's intentional.
Well, okay, yeah. So look, the first, I mean, we distribute through MVD in the States.
Okay, yeah.
And they had been sort of chasing us for quite a long time, really. And we just like so busy, basically, that we kind of we had to have a chat about it at some point, and it never really happened.
Okay.
And then kind of part of all this, like I said, of just sitting down, looking at the business and what we're going to do, part of that was, well, if we're going to have a crack at releasing stuff in America, which is, something we had talked about on and off over the years, we need to do it. We need to sort of, because it's not kind of now or never kind of situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't remember the way around we did it. I mean, definitely Gestapo's Last Orgy was meant to be a UK release. We put it through the censors over here, the BBFC, and they outright rejected it, said you can't release that in this country.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, which doesn't happen very often. And to be honest, they don't cut a lot of stuff either anymore, but they wouldn't offer us any cuts or anything. They just said, no, the tone of this, not happening, basically. And
Wait a minute, this was in 2001.
no,
right?
no, this was.
I mean, 2021. I'm sorry. So even in 2020, or whenever you were giving it to them, 2000.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, and the process was then, if you want to appeal, it's £5,000. You fail, you don't get it back. You lose it. And I think even if you win, you don't get it back. So it's kind of like, maybe not. I don't think many people appeal, to be honest. So we kind of thought, well, because first of all, I mean, this was kind of, we'd licensed the film and we'd made maybe you've seen it, so how good it looks. We made a really, really good looking master.
Yeah.
The negative, scans the negative. And then obviously once that was completed, we put it through PBFC, and then we're like, oh God, what are we going to do? Because we pay for the license, pay for this master,
Yeah.
And very, 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 very fortunately and kindly, the people that we licensed it from allowed us to swap territories, and that kind of, that kind of became our first release. Weirdly, it was, yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, this is what, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just thinking on that point. This is what I love about what boutique labels are doing in general. And then 88 Films. There's an interview with Luigi Cozzi on there that after you see the movie, I think it's one of those ones where you're like, it just takes a minute to kind of process what you just saw. I mean, there's a lot going on, right? I was joking with a friend that there's I have a friend that watches a lot of these type of more depraved movies, or whatever you want to call it. And I was saying, yeah, well, there's somebody currently giving a barrel job to a gun, and he was like, sold. I'm gonna go buy it. But there's that interview with Luigi Cozzi paints the picture of what was going on in Italy at the time, how the censorship, how the sort of the success of Night Porter made for this little niche genre of Nazi exploitation films, some background on Cesare Canaveri, and then he joked at the end about how he'll never watch this movie, but he has an idea about what's going on from the title. But I just think, like, it makes me sad that, or it makes me happy that exists, and sad that there's companies that are still blocking that, because like, what a fascinating little piece of history, right?
That's it. Well, that's exactly how I think probably everybody else sees it. It's history, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has come out. It's happened. I mean, to say it and to ban it and say nobody's allowed to watch that. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, yes, you would probably not make a new film like that now, and then probably very good reasons for it. But it happened. It exists, and people should be able to watch it in its historical context.
Yeah.
Like I mean, recently we put out kind of a Holocaust on UHD, and we had to lose. I mean, don't ask me why. There's obviously animal cruelty in there, and why that was ever a thing in these Italian films, who knows? I mean, I guess it's a shock factor, isn't it? But that's what happened. That's what happened in a lot of them. And to be fair, well, they let almost all of it through, apart from literally one 16-second shot of the is it the cotimundia, what they're called? Being pierced by the guy's knife, kind of thing, through the jaw. But I mean, the turtle gets pulled to pieces and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. But this thing happened, what, 30 about 40 years ago, whatever it was, you know,
Right, right, right.
3 years ago. I mean, I just got to look at it in its context, I think. Obviously, have a, you know, put plaster whatever warnings you want to over it, but don't cut the thing, you know.
Well, I mean, you look at something like Cannibal Holocaust versus Cannibal Ferox, and I think in a way, Ferox is almost worse because, Holocaust was at least trying to kind of make a point, and
Mm.
then Cannibal Ferox was just trying to make a buck. Like the difference
Um,
between the two.
yeah, same Man from Deep River as well. I mean, that was Lindsay, wasn't it? Just literally, just I guess it's a shock factor, isn't it? It's just trying to get it, you know, get bums on seats, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's funny actually. Just on the last point about this, before we move on from Orgy, it made me smile that Luigi Cozzi was the mature, dignified man in the room, speaking about Canaveri, because Cozzi's made some kind of crazy films as well. So that just, I don't know, that put a smile on my face. That he was the distinguished gentleman in the room. Um, but so from there, then starting with Chinese Boxer, Disciples of Shaolin, Flag of Iron, Legendary Weapons of China, Monkey Kung Fu, Shaolin Mantis Hero, Human Lantern Martial Club, and then Flying Guillotine Part 2. That's where I'm up to right now of your US releases, and I know there's a bunch more on pre-order. Are you looking at doing about, 4 to 6 a year? Are you trying to get into like what's kind of the pace that you're trying to hit for the US market?
We're trying to do more than we're currently doing. It's just the longer lead times, to be honest, is kind of getting in the way at the moment, and especially like I say with I think that's on recording, but I was saying to you earlier that how
Hmm.
to HD is how long everything takes. Now anything goes wrong. It's we've just had it's been a bit tricky the last kind of 6-9 months, but we'd have quite a lot of titles licensed for the States. I mean, just on the list up now, just to refresh my memory, we're probably still down to what Mark Flying Guillotine 2. So we've got that's 11, isn't it? Yeah, we're down to 26 now in terms of upcoming titles. In fact, that's more right there. So we'll get as many as we can of those out this year. To be honest, we just have to see how quickly everything gets done, really.
Okay, wow. So 26 releases, that's amazing. And as far as, I know that for the Region B releases, your pace is far above that. I guess so I'm just curious, I guess in general, without getting into the specifics of your business, is the Region A stuff going well for you? Are the sales pretty good in the US?
Yeah. I mean,
Good.
our distributor, when I'm meeting them fairly recently, and they were over the moon. How they were doing, and yeah, I can't complain. So definitely gonna carry on. That's for sure.
Oh, that's so great to hear. Yeah, I think there's a few companies from Region B that have set up a pretty good, um, series of releases here in the US, but it feels like, anyways, I'm very happy to hear y'all are successful. We need a lot of the stuff that you're putting out. It feels to me, and I don't know if I say this kind of half joking, but a lot of these titles feel like you're trying to just complete your shelves on some of these movies that everybody loves. Do you ever feel like that as a kind of a director of this label? Do you ever just feel like, oh no, I need some more Jackie Chan stuff. Let's go see what licenses are available. Is is that kind of how you approach this, or how do you think about when you're acquiring a whole bunch of new films like this? Is it just kind of passion led, or how do you come up with a lot of these?
Oh, crikey! It's all. I mean, there's so many different reasons for titles and different places to get them from and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it can. I mean, we deal with a lot of agents, so you can get presented with a list of availables, basically. So, I mean, that's fairly easy. Do you want, and other times it can be, well, I mean, with dealing with studios, sometimes their lists are not very good, and you just kind of bombard them with titles that you'd love to do, and see if occasionally the odd one sticks. And or you're literally trying to track down some sort of lead on who might own the rights to a particular film. the original producer or whatever, you know, and you spend months trying to trying to track somebody down and then find out they don't hold the rights or whatever, but, you know. But yeah, I mean, generally, obviously, if you have something that's doing fairly well and you enjoy working on, then we try and get some more of them. You know, we sort of have these. Well, we've had several. I think it's probably what distinguishes us a little bit from other kind of boutique labels in the UK. So we've had these kind of distinct series. You know, we had a slasher collection, which we got to 50 on. It's getting quite hard to find many more of those because everybody else has put the rest out. So I might have a lead on a few actually. And then we had this Italian collection, which kind of seems to be going on for, you know, forever and ever. We're at like 80 something now, whatever it is. You know, I love those films. I absolutely adore almost everything in there. It's just fantastic. Maybe nobody agrees, I don't know, but I think they're brilliant. And then obviously the Asian lines and whatever. So yeah, I guess we've tried to continue those as much as possible. Yeah, Shaw Brothers is I should say this on record or not really, but Shaw Brothers was something we did all right. I mean, they don't sell loads, but we enjoy working on them and they do quite well. But obviously, I think Arrow have started doing quite sort of big box sets with them and have had access to the negatives and stuff, which we were never given access to. So that's kind of a bit, I don't know. We lost enthusiasm for those, to be honest, a little bit, which is a shame because people do enjoy them. We do get requests from them all the time, but it was a shame that we weren't given first dibs on a lot of the titles that they put out. Because, you know, we were the first people in the UK on Blu-ray anyway to be putting a lot of these deep catalogue titles out, that, you know, from their library. But hey-ho, you know, it's not exclusive. So
yeah. I mean, I guess at least the good news there is that they have they're putting out hundreds of films a year, right?
I don't know what their schedule's like. I don't think it's hundreds. No, it's
oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Or their catalog is very deep anyway. So
yeah.
Hopefully there's still some good stuff there to be farmed. I guess you're talking about categories. There's just kind of two main questions I have left. So, Rikio and Robotics, and forgive me if there's more. Those are the two Cat 3 titles that I own. And you know, obviously Cat 3 has a wide range of films that kind of fall within that. Some of them get pretty nasty. But are you planning on putting more Cat 3 titles out?
God, yeah. Oh, yes. We have plenty more of those in the pipeline, that's for sure.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
any that you can tease, or would you like to just surprise us with them?
I think people know it leaked out that Untold Stories we've got through Uncut through BBFC very recently. So that's coming. We recently released Ebola Syndrome as well, Uncut.
Oh, of course.
Gothic Ghost Story did really, really well for us. And yeah, there's a few others. We've got I suppose I could tell you we've got Taxi Hunter coming up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't say any more than that, to be honest. But yeah.
No. Yeah, I'm happy to let you keep your secrets. That's very exciting to hear. Those movies are just so, I don't know, that was one of the most unhinged creativity periods of filmmaking. Yeah. So that's exciting. And then I guess kind of one of the last questions I feel like I kind of have to cover is I read in an interview, or you alluded to, the 88 films comes from Back to the Future. Any background on kind of how you chose that name? Was it just as simple as you love the movie?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we were just brainstorming ideas, and I think we got to B movies, which was below Elliott movies, surnames, and you know, designed this little B thing, and we just weren't really up for it. Weren't really enjoying it. weren't really feeling it as well.
Okay.
And I don't know. I just sort of blurted out 88 films because it's obviously it's the speed you got to get to go back, you know, back in time, whatever, forward in time. And yeah, I love those films. So that's it. That's it, really. You know, there's no kind of more in depth about. You know, there's nothing else to it, really. That's what it is. You
I
know,
love
and
it.
it kind of, you know, it sets a picture for the sort of films that we, you know, that we release generally 80s. You know, we can do. And yeah, I think it works. It works all right.
Well, I love it. And if you, I mean, you don't have to do this, but for what it's worth, you were talking earlier about collectors and their shelves. One of the things that I found to be very helpful for people like me that tend to try to go complete, um, even if stuff is out of print or sold out, if there's anywhere where some of the history of the company can be chronicled or cataloged, to make it easy for people to find. Just I'll give you that little tip. There's lots of folks that will discover one or two of your movies and want to kind of dive in. So if that's not to give you more work here, but if you ever have anybody or an intern or anybody who can go through and just kind of publish a catalog somewhere of all your releases in order, so that curious people can go find them and make sure they own them. I think that will probably help probably help you in the long run. Because I think for people like me that discover you through Ricky O, now I'm going back and trying to capture as much as I can. And I always have a feel that I'm missing out on something important.
Yeah,
um,
that's a great point. I mean, our website, we use a package, and we have done since we set it up. But so I could have, because a lot of other people have like an out of print section, don't they, on their websites? And I think at the moment, if we did that, we'd have an out of print section, great, but it would just show out of stock, where people would get in contact, say, how can I buy this or whatever. But also because it would have to show up in like the general listing of everything as well. I've got no way of making sure it doesn't do that. So yeah, maybe we need like just a page of it written down or something. I don't know. That's a great idea. I appreciate that. We'll see what we can do. Yeah, and then we don't have any interns, unfortunately. That'll fall to me, I'm afraid. But
okay.
it's a good idea. I like it.
There's enough degenerates like me out there that are just curious. So rather than it be curated by a third party who's probably not complete, just wanted to pass that on. Richard, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. There's 100 other questions I have. So maybe in a year or two, we can try to get back on and do this again. But I'm so glad people get to hear your voice, and I disagree with your assessment of yourself. I think you're natural at this, and I think you have great stories. And so, just thanks for making some time today.
Well, no, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for persisting anyway and bothering me and making this happen. So yeah, it was good, and I'm happily coming again.